Have you ever noticed how quietly the seasons change? No one tells the trees when to let go. No one reminds the rivers when to move. No one teaches the flowers how to bloom. And yet everything grows, perfectly, patiently, effortlessly. The same is true for you. You don't have to chase growth. You don't have to force healing. Because deep within you, life already knows how to unfold. Healing isn't something you achieve through pressure. It's something you allow through presence. It happens not because you push, but because you stop resisting. Stay with me until the end of this story, because somewhere inside you, beneath the noise and the ache, there's a quiet power waiting to be remembered. The power to heal yourself simply by being aware, by being kind, and by being patient with your own becoming. We live in a world obsessed with progress, always moving, always improving. We treat growth like a race, something to win, something to prove. We push ourselves to heal faster, get over it, move on. But healing is not a performance. It's not a task to finish. It's the slow unfolding of your own wisdom. You don't rush a wound to close. You keep it clean, you protect it. You let time and tenderness do their work. That's how emotional healing works too. You can't force it. You can only create the conditions for it to happen naturally. Like sunlight through clouds, your peace returns in moments. Soft, quiet, unannounced. Some days you'll feel light again. Other days you'll feel the ache of what's still mending. But every breath, every tear, every small act of care is part of your healing. The tree doesn't resent the winter. It doesn't say, "I should be blooming by now." It simply waits, trusting that spring will come. And when the time is right, it does. Always. You have that same rhythm inside you. A natural intelligence that knows when to rest, when to release, and when to rise again. But we forget because the world teaches us to hurry. We rush our grief. We rush our growth. We rush even our peace. We think, if I just do enough, I'll finally feel okay. But the truth is, healing begins the moment you stop trying to feel okay and simply let yourself feel what is. It's in the stillness, not the striving, that the heart mends itself. Like a river clearing after a storm, peace returns when the water stops being disturbed. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to witness yourself with gentleness, with patience, with the same compassion you would give to someone you love deeply. Think of a river. No matter how many rocks you throw into it, it finds a way to keep flowing. It doesn't argue with the obstacles. It moves around them. And in time, even the sharpest stones are made smooth by its persistence. That's what healing looks like. Not avoidance, but flow. You keep moving, not by forcing, but by trusting your own current. The pain softens not because you forget it, but because you learn how to carry it with grace. When you stop trying to control the process, you begin to see beauty in the pauses. You begin to understand that even your stillness is sacred. That silence isn't empty. It's full of transformation. When a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, it dissolves completely inside its cocoon. It doesn't rush that process. It surrenders to it, because within the stillness, something miraculous is taking shape. Something it could never have created by willpower alone. You are the same. Every time you rest, every time you forgive yourself, every time you stop forcing, your wings are quietly forming. Maybe your healing doesn't look like progress right now. Maybe it looks like taking smaller steps. Maybe it looks like tears you can't explain or moments of silence you can't fill. That's okay. Healing is not linear. It's cyclical, like nature, like breath.
You inhale, you exhale.
You expand, you contract. You fall, you rise. You bloom, you rest. And through it all, life keeps whispering, "You're growing, even here." So let's pause together for a moment. Take a deep breath. In through your nose, gently out through your mouth. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel the space you just created inside yourself. That space is healing. That space is proof that peace is already returning. You don't have to chase it. You just have to allow it. There's no rush. Because healing, like the dawn, always arrives on time. Healing doesn't happen in the noise. It happens in the noticing. In the small moments when you stop running from yourself and start listening again. Listening to your body when it says, I'm tired. Listening to your heart when it says, I'm hurt. Listening to your silence when it says, I need space. Awareness is the first medicine, because what you can see clearly, you can finally care for. And what you care for with love always begins to heal. You don't need to analyze every emotion to heal it. You only need to acknowledge it. Every feeling wants the same thing, and to be felt. That's its way of leaving the body, of completing its purpose. Grief, anger, fear, guilt, they're not your enemies. They're guests who came to show you what still needs your attention. And when you meet them with compassion instead of judgment, they soften. They begin to dissolve into understanding. The world often tells you to stay positive, to think good thoughts. But real healing isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about being honest enough to admit when you're not. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is, I'm hurting, and that's okay. Because that statement, that gentle truth, opens the door to self-kindness. And self-kindness is the soil where real transformation grows. Imagine holding a plant in your hand. Would you yell at it to grow faster? Would you demand it to bloom on your timeline? No, you would give it light, water, patience, and trust. That's how you should treat your own growth. You are not behind in life. You are not broken. You are becoming at your own pace in your own season, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Something deep inside you is shifting quietly, like roots growing unseen beneath the surface. Your healing is working in silence. You can't always measure it, but you can feel it, in the way you pause before reacting, in the way you forgive more easily, in the way you speak to yourself with more tenderness than before. That's progress, that's growth, and it's happening even on the days you doubt it most. In Buddhism, there's a word, sati. It means remembrance, mindfulness, awareness. To be mindful doesn't mean to think more. It means to remember who you truly are. Beyond your fear, beyond your pain, beyond the story of I'm not enough. You are the awareness behind the thought. You are the sky, not the storm. And no matter how loud the storm gets, the sky remains untouched. When you remember that, your healing deepens, because you stop identifying with the pain, and you start witnessing it. You begin to see your emotions as visitors, not as definitions. Let's say your heart has been through loss. It feels cracked, empty, uncertain. But what if those cracks aren't signs of weakness? What if they're windows, openings where light can finally enter? Every wound, if tended with love, becomes a place of wisdom. The scar doesn't mean you failed, it means you healed. And each one carries a story of survival, of becoming, of strength you didn't know you had. Healing doesn't erase the past. It transforms your relationship with it. It teaches you to look back with softer eyes, to say, yes, that happened, and it made me who I am. That's the alchemy of awareness, turning pain into presence and suffering into understanding. Imagine you're walking through a forest. The sunlight filters through the leaves. The air smells of rain and earth. Everything around you grows, not through effort, but through connection. The trees grow because they trust the soil, the sunlight, the rain. They don't worry about how tall they'll become, or whether they're doing enough. They just exist, deeply rooted, open to what life gives them. That's what healing asks of you. Not perfection, but participation, to stay rooted in this moment even when you don't know what's next. To trust that life, like the forest, knows how to renew itself, because your healing doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from trusting deeper. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that growth requires pressure, that you must always be doing, achieving, improving. But the truth is, pressure can stunt the soul just as easily as it shapes it. You can't force a seed to open. You can only make sure it's in the right conditions. You are not here to perform your healing. You are here to experience it, slowly, quietly, naturally. Growth is not a race toward perfection. It's a return to wholeness. And wholeness doesn't mean the absence of pain. It means the inclusion of everything. The hurt, the hope, the uncertainty, the joy. It means you hold it all with love. Healing begins the moment you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What do I need to love more deeply right now?" Sometimes the answer will be rest. Sometimes it will be forgiveness. Sometimes it will be patience. But always, it will lead you home, back to yourself, back to the quiet truth that you are already healing. Even now, there's a quiet wisdom hidden inside every living thing, a rhythm, a patience, a trust. Nothing in nature rushes, and yet everything gets done. The tree does not stretch its branches overnight. The ocean does not hurry the tides. The sunrise never arrives early, and it is never late. Life unfolds in perfect timing, and so do you. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that. We began to measure our worth in speed, in outcomes, in progress we can prove. We forgot that healing is not about arriving. It's about allowing. Growth doesn't require a deadline. It only asks for devotion. To stay, to notice, to soften. When you surrender to life instead of forcing it, you step into harmony with something far greater than your own plans. It's like moving from struggling against the current to floating with it. The water carries you where you need to go, and all that's required is trust. Trust that the river knows the way. Surrender isn't weakness. It's the deepest kind of strength. The kind that comes from realizing you never had to hold everything together in the first place. When you stop trying to control life, life begins to hold you. It moves through you, breathes with you, heals you from within. Look at the trees after a storm. Some branches break, yes, but the roots remain. The tree doesn't curse the wind, it uses it. It bends, it sways. And when the calm returns, it stands taller for having endured. That's the art of surrender. Not giving up, but growing through. It's trusting that every wind has a purpose, that even the chaos is carving you into something stronger. Healing isn't the absence of storms, it's learning how to move with them. You might not realize it, but even when you feel still, growth is happening inside you. Cells regenerate. The heart learns new rhythms. The mind unravels old stories and writes new ones. The spirit softens around truths it once resisted. This is invisible work, sacred work. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. The same way you don't see a seed sprouting beneath the soil, you don't always see your healing as it's unfolding. But one day you wake up lighter, more at peace, and you realize something has shifted quietly within you. There is a difference between effort and alignment. Effort says, "I must make this happen." Alignment says, "I trust what's already happening." When you live in effort, you exhaust yourself trying to control outcomes. When you live in alignment, you move with grace, trusting that what's meant for you will always find you, in its own time, in its own way. Healing doesn't come from control. It comes from communion, with yourself, with nature, with the truth of impermanence. Everything in this world is changing, always. The leaf falls, the river flows, the stars burn and fade. Why should you be any different? You are part of that same dance. ever moving, ever renewing. So instead of resisting change, what if you started to see it as the rhythm of your healing? Every ending, a doorway. Every loss, a teacher. Every silence, a beginning disguised. You have the power to heal yourself. Not because you can control everything, but because you can learn to meet everything with awareness. Awareness is the bridge between pain and peace. When you bring light to what hurts, you stop feeding it with fear. You begin to see the lesson behind the wound, the love behind the loss, the wisdom behind the waiting. Healing doesn't always mean the pain disappears. Sometimes it means the pain becomes your teacher, not your enemy. It softens you instead of hardening you. It opens your heart instead of closing it. It turns your suffering into compassion. For yourself, for others, for life itself. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your pain as a small child standing before you. What does that child need? A solution? A lecture? Or simply a hug? A space to be seen, to be loved, to be allowed. This is what self-compassion looks like. Not fixing, not judging, just being with. When you hold your pain this way, something miraculous happens. The fear begins to loosen its grip. The tension begins to ease. And what remains is tenderness. A quiet knowing that you can endure, that you can begin again. The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Healing begins when you finally believe that. When you stop withholding love until you become better. When you stop postponing peace until everything makes sense, you can begin now, with a breath, with kindness, with presence. That is enough, because life doesn't ask you to be perfect to be worthy. It asks you to be real, to feel, to fall, to rise, to forgive. And in that honesty, healing takes root. Have you noticed how nature never hurries, yet everything gets done? The flower doesn't wake up wondering if it's beautiful enough to bloom. The rain doesn't question if it's falling too softly or too hard. The sun doesn't compete with the moon. It just shines when it's time. But we, humans, forget this rhythm. We think we must always be doing to be worthy, always be coming to deserve peace. We fill every pause with plans, every silence with noise, every breath with worry. And yet, if you stop, even for a single moment, you can feel something ancient stirring inside you, a rhythm older than thought, deeper than fear, the quiet hum of being alive. That hum is your healing. It's always there, waiting beneath the noise. Healing doesn't come from forcing yourself to be strong. It comes from allowing yourself to be soft. It comes from saying, "I don't have to carry everything today." It comes from giving yourself permission to rest, not because you've earned it, but because you exist. You are part of the same nature that created oceans and galaxies. And nature does not rush. It renews itself through cycles, through darkness and light, through seasons of growth and seasons of stillness. So when your life feels quiet, when nothing seems to be moving, don't mistake that for failure. That's winter. Your roots growing deeper underground. That's the soil preparing your next bloom. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your healing is simply to stop fighting what is, to breathe, to say to yourself, this too is part of the journey. Because healing is not the same as fixing. You are not broken, you are becoming. And every part of your experience, even the ones you wish you could erase, is shaping you into someone more whole, more kind, more awake. If you look closely, you'll see that everything in nature heals through connection. The river heals because it keeps moving. The forest heals because each tree supports the next. Roots intertwining, sharing nourishment, sharing strength. We heal the same way, through connection, through kindness, through remembering that we were never meant to do this alone. Sometimes that connection begins not with others, but with yourself. To sit quietly and whisper, "I am still here." To place a hand over your heart and listen to its steady rhythm. It has carried you through storms you thought you wouldn't survive, and it's still beating, still believing in your return to peace. There's something deeply healing about gratitude, not the kind that ignores pain, but the kind that sees beauty in the midst of it. Gratitude doesn't say, "Everything is perfect." It says, "Even here, something good still exists." It's the moment you notice light through the window, or laughter from another room, or the warmth of tea in your hands. Small things, sacred things, the little reminders that life has not abandoned you. You've just been too busy surviving to notice. Gratitude doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real, because the moment you find even one small thing to appreciate, your heart begins to open again. And an open heart heals naturally. When healing feels slow, remember, even the sunrise takes time. At first there's only darkness, and then a faint glow, then a streak of gold. Then suddenly the world is light again. That's how your healing will come. Gradually, gently. First a flicker of peace, then a spark of hope, until one morning you wake up and realize the heaviness has softened. You'll still have cloudy days. That's part of the weather of being human. But even the clouds can't hold back the light forever. The sun always remembers how to return. And so will you. In moments of doubt, try this. Place your hand over your chest. Take one slow, full breath. Feel your body rise and fall. This right here is life. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to earn it. It's already happening through you. Healing too is happening through you. Not someday. Now, not after you've figured everything out, but in the middle of not knowing, because growth doesn't come from certainty. It comes from trust. You are healing every time you choose love over fear. Every time you let a breath of patience replace a wave of frustration. Every time you choose to rest instead of rush. Every time you forgive yourself for being human. These small, quiet choices, they are how transformation happens. Not with thunder, not with applause, but with soft, consistent grace. The world may not see it, but the universe does. And it smiles through you, whispering, "Yes, this is how you heal." Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. Before you believed that love had to be earned. Before you learned to measure your worth by how much you could endure. Before you confused doing with being. You were born whole. You were born with light. You were born knowing how to rest in yourself. Healing is simply the art of returning. Returning to that knowing, to that softness, to that place inside you that never broke. There's a peace that lives in you, even when you can't feel it. It doesn't disappear when you're in pain. It only hides behind the noise. But when you sit quietly, when you breathe, when you stop running from the moment and simply allow it, you begin to feel that peace again. Gentle, ancient, steady. That peace isn't something you find. It's something you remember. It's the quiet hum beneath your heartbeat, the silence between your thoughts, the stillness that never left you. Even in the chaos. Sometimes, the hardest part of healing is not the pain itself, but learning to trust that peace again. We get so used to struggle that calm feels strange. But peace is not the absence of effort. It's the presence of trust. Trust that life is working with you, not against you. Trust that your body knows how to heal. Trust that your heart knows how to forgive. Trust that you are already becoming everything you are meant to be. There's a story from Zen about a man who carried a heavy bag everywhere he went. Inside it were stones, old memories, regrets, fears, expectations. He had carried them for so long that he forgot what it felt like to walk freely. One day a teacher asked him, "Why do you carry all that weight?" The man said, "Because I don't know how to put it down." The teacher smiled and replied, "Then start by setting down one stone." That's all healing asks of you. one stone at a time, one moment of forgiveness, one deep breath, one act of letting go. You don't need to drop everything at once. Just lighten your load a little today, and tomorrow a little more, until one day you realize the bag is empty and you are walking lighter than you ever have before. Healing is not a straight path, it spirals. You'll revisit old lessons with new eyes. You'll stumble, pause, rise, and begin again. But each time you return, you'll return wiser, gentler, more compassionate with yourself. You'll learn that strength is not about never breaking, it's about never closing. It's about keeping your heart open even when it aches. Because love, true love, including self-love, is the most powerful medicine of all. Every time you choose to love yourself in the middle of your mess, you heal something generations before you could not. You break a cycle. You bring light to places that have long been dark. And you remind the world that peace is still possible, because it is living inside you. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your breath, slow, steady, kind. You don't need to fix anything right now. You don't need to be anyone other than who you are. Just breathe and feel the gentle truth of this moment. You are alive. You are healing. You are enough. Let this be your prayer, not of words, but of awareness. Let every inhale remind you that life is still flowing through you. Let every exhale remind you that you can release what no longer serves you. The river never forces itself to move, it just flows. The light never strains to shine, it just illuminates. And you never needed to strive to be whole. You just needed to remember that you already are. You have the power to heal yourself. Not because you can control the outcome, but because you can choose your presence within it. Because you can meet each moment, painful or peaceful, with tenderness. Because you can remember that your healing doesn't need to be spectacular. It only needs to be sincere. You heal when you listen. You heal when you rest. You heal when you laugh again, even after forgetting how. You heal when you allow yourself to be seen by others, by life, by yourself. And you heal, most of all, when you stop trying to force the light and start letting it find you. So as you reach the end of this story, I want you to know, you were never broken. You were only unfolding. You were only learning the rhythm of your own becoming. And now you know, healing doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for patience. It asks for softness. It asks for trust. Let life hold you. Let your breath guide you. Let your heart lead you home. And remember, peace is not something to earn. It is something to remember. Breathe that truth in. Let it settle softly within you, because your healing has already begun.